Go ahead, George.
It's on our budget.
Meeting's order.
The date is January 1st, that should be January 18th, 2018. The time is 6:33 p.m. David Champy II.
Present.
Rob Collins.
Here.
Geary Ciccarone. Ed Comeau.
Here.
Stephen Bailey.
Here.
Bill Zadie.
Here.
Rick Charette.
Present.
Dianne Smith.
Here.
Tim Strauss.
Here.
We only have one regular member absent.
Tim, would you like to sit on the board tonight?
I've been absent for a while.
Sorry, sure.
Okay, thank you. Any public comments? Announcements and correspondence mail. So we have a copy of Public Works. If you want to see what we're getting sent to us, so it'll be in the general common area. Convene. Another magazine outfit I've seen before, Indie Meetings.
Indie
Meetings.
making connections.
Never seen that one before, so that might be worth taking a peek at. See what-
Sounds Woodstockish.
Right.
Woodstock. Is that the word?
Good now. It comes out of my mouth.
Get those in the common area, George, please. Review and possible approval of December 21st minutes. Can I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the meeting minutes for the meeting of Thursday, December 21st, 2017, as presented.
All in favor?
Yes.
Second.
Oh,
Second
sorry.
or discussion?
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Abstain, I wasn't here.
New business. We don't have any new business on today's agenda. As far as old business goes, we have the new copies of the rules and procedures that George kindly printed for us and put together so we can update our binders. And then we also have the updated revisions that were made to the 2018 Master Plan Community Survey. I'd like to review that. There's a few suggestions that after I did the revisions, I had a couple of people, one happened to be my daughter, and pointed out some things that she said it's kind of confusing. And we had discussed it at the last meeting as well, and to have someone that had never seen it before take a look at it, I thought was, worthwhile. I also had some people that weren't from town take a look at it too, and they actually took the survey, which was kind of fun for them. But so as far as the grading, the request at the last meeting was to, I think it was Bill's, the 80s request, to start it off, kind of get the mind going with just some quick check-off lists here. And one of the things that was noticed was the good, adequate, poor. The people that I gave this to, including my daughter, said that the good and adequate seemed to be the same thing. So good and adequate was kind of confusing for some. So I'm willing to take some suggestions. One of the things that was suggested was excellent, adequate, or poor, just to give it a very distinct category as to where they're at.
Excellent, good, poor.
Excellent, good, poor.
Yep.
Any suggestions?
Excellent, good, poor.
Yes, Diane?
So, I'm not quite sure what my status is. Am I going to be allowed to participate as if I were seated, but I just can't vote? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. So first of all, I want to apologize to everyone for missing all of the meetings since August. There were some family issues that didn't allow me to attend. So I think we're talking about this from question number, or item number 2 through item number 10. Is that correct?
Correct.
And again, I apologize for this because I wasn't here. I'm not sure where in the process these came in. But when I was looking this over, this struck me as these are not items that get incorporated into a master plan. These are survey questions that relate to issues of concern to the Board of Selectmen. And I just thought that they're not appropriate for a master plan. I don't think that, now, that said, I think they're very appropriate questions. I just don't think they belong in this survey. Perhaps it would be possible to have a separate sheet of paper with those included in the packet, but to suggest that these, winter and summer road maintenance and law enforcement services, it really has no bearing on the planning board's development of the master plan, in my opinion.
Thank you for your input. I beg to differ with that because I believe that our position here as the board is to give the selectmen an idea of what the people in town are looking for the desire of the town going forward, planning ahead by 10 years. And I think that these are viable questions because it gives the selectmen an idea whether or not they feel, the people in town feel that the current services are adequate, or if they're poor, or if they need improvement. So if they're poor, then it gives the selectmen an idea to understand that the desire of the townspeople would be maybe potentially build a fire department and not continue to use the services. So that's, we're here to try to help with the future planning, right, and understand what the people in town want. And that's part of the master plan, is to lay that out and take the wishes of the people in town. And then the selectmen can be the ones that determine where that money gets divvied up and what gets passed in town.
I don't disagree with anything that either of you said, but I do think that to bring it back to the planning board and the master plan, if these questions came back with all poor and people said, we got to do something different for these services, I could very well see, I don't anticipate that's gonna happen. But if it did, we as a planning board would have to say, well, how can we, as part of planning for the growth and development of this town, help address those things? And we should be thinking about, oh, well, we need some more municipal services that are housed here, right? Where are those gonna go? Do we need to make zoning changes to support that? Do we need, what infrastructure is needed? Things like that, right? I don't anticipate that any of that's gonna happen this time around. At some point, though, we may very well change from this, sleepy town that nothing happens in to something where we need to start planning for supporting more infrastructure. So anyway, I think that for this time around, the questions are gonna tell us that the master plan doesn't need to change to support answers to those questions. But we don't know unless we ask them. So anyway, just my 2 cents.
Thank you.
There's an alignment issue with
Yeah.
the answers.
Yeah.
That's the level of concern. Diane's got real concerns. I'm looking at the alignment. And that's what's bothering me. So you gonna fix that?
I will, yeah. So I will address question 2 through 10 as excellent, good, poor, and then we all agreed on questions 11 through 16 for the categories. I believe I sent you all a copy of the notes as well, from the notes that I took during the meeting and from the video, so you can see where the changes occurred. There were some categories that we removed as well, some questions that we had removed. We didn't feel were pertinent for this. And also added the category B under the numbers for an alternative for if no, so we don't try to sway people in the if yes direction.
So on one, just some nits under 1D.
Yep.
So the place for the check box at the
Yeah.
aligned.
Yeah, they're not the same width either.
This line is longer than these ones.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
On question 10, there's no colon after education. You've got a colon on all the other ones. On question 11, you switched to periods, and, or at least for the first 3, and then number 14, there is no period or colon. 15, 16, same thing. So I don't know, I mean, just maybe want to make a pass through, just looking for punctuation consistency. Maybe nobody else but me would notice that, but.
I'm going to have an English teacher review. That's what I'll do.
My wife is really good at looking at those things. Finding emotion.
The same on 31 and 32 as well. There's no colon or period after that.
Mr. Chairman, 21 also.
Thank you, George.
Question.
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
question.
Sure.
regards to questions referencing current regulations, you know, it'd probably be good to be able to reference which regulations those may be in case somebody is filling this out and want to read up on what they may be before they comment.
Which number do you want?
There's a couple of them. I'm sorry. Well, the one being 21 zoning regulations regarding home business-based businesses. I mean, where would somebody be able to find that information or make a good, you know, to review it before they make comment? And then again, what was it? Well, you know, there's a couple.
We had 24, stay with current zoning allowance and restriction.
Yeah.
So just like a parentheses with the page number.
Yeah, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, the wording on 15 and 16, just I suggest it reads, 15 would read support residential installation of, rather than for, of small wind energy add word systems for personal use, and then mirror that in 16, support residential installation of small solar energy systems for personal use.
Thank you, Rob. That's why we do this.
Mr. Chairman, did we actually create this as a working document so we can track it?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, going back to what Tim was saying about are we going to add the zoning ordinance reference point for those questions that I didn't hear if we were going to do that?
Yeah, if they're specific to a section in the zoning, I'll put in parentheses what page of the zoning that's on. But as far as 24 goes, it's kind of a broad question. Going forward, with which method would you like to see Brookfield follow? The first one says stay with current zoning allowances and restrictions, and that's basically the whole zoning, right?
Yeah.
So you can't really put a page number on there, just put refer to zoning, current zoning or something.
I'm a little confused by the wording on some of the answers on 24. The second and third ones, increase the current zoning allowances and restrictions and reduce current zoning allowances and restrictions. I read allowances as things we're allowed to do, and restrictions, things we're not allowed to do, according to the zoning. Would we want to say, have one of those say, I don't know, I'm not sure what I would say, but
Increase regulations.
yeah, tighten it or loosen it, right? I think that was the intent was to have an option for tighten things and an option for loosening things, right? Or yeah, that would make sense there.
Yeah.
I think. So I don't have proposed wording, but that just confused me.
That would be mostly toward restrictions, because allowances are allowances, but less, more or less restrictions.
I mean, to be technical, you're not allowed to do anything the zoning doesn't say you are allowed to do.
Right.
Yeah.
We have permissive zoning. So in that sense, the restrictions are just the allowances that are explicitly not there, I guess.
Right.
So
Does anyone want to volunteer their telephone number for a helpline thing?
That's what the chairman's job, I'm pretty sure.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes?
may I suggest replacing the word "and" with "versus"?
To increase the current zoning allowance versus restriction? Is that what you're suggesting? Is that clear for you, you think? Would it be clear for townspeople?
I think it would be a little more clear.
What about just two words, increase regulations? The next one, reduce regulations.
I think that would be clear.
Diane?
I was heading the same way that Ed just mentioned, because allowances and restrictions are opposing one another. So you got to drop one of them, just pick one. And then maybe instead of increase and reduce, tighten and loosen instead, because depending on which one you pick. So you can loosen the restrictions, or you can tighten the restrictions, or you can, I don't,
That's where I was trying to go earlier.
Yeah, I think tighten current zoning restrictions.
I think Ed had the simplest, most clear language. Increase, what was it? Increase regulation, decrease regulation?
That was it.
I think everyone will get that.
Simplifies it.
And then the next item, I think, is very clear, but only if you actually know what zoning districts are, which I'm not sure that we should assume that.
What is a traditional zoning district?
That's where different things are allowed in different parts of the town. Whereas in our town, we have essentially one district that we all live in, and so we're all allowed to do the same things. We have the rec zone, right? The rec zone is, you think about, the rec zone, you can't have people living there, right, aside from the caretaker, right? You can't open a ski area on your property either, right? So it's sort of that, but like Wolfboro has, I don't know, 20-something different zones within their town, each with a different set of regulations on what's allowed and what's not allowed.
so perhaps just finishing that line with, in parentheses, multiple zoning types.
Or maybe something like, in parentheses, different regulations in different parts of the town.
It's a lot more words.
But people aren't gonna, I don't know, I think that gets to the crux of it, though, that, without knowing anything about zoning, you get that, I think.
I'm sorry.
What did you say again, Rob?
I don't know, what did I say?
Different regulations for different parts of the town.
Yeah.
That works.
Yep.
Can I ask, Mr. Chairman, what is that question or that answer going to give us? You have an increase regulation, a reduce regulation, stay with current regulations, move towards traditional zoning districts. I don't know, what is that giving us?
That allows you to have reduced in some parts of town and increased in other parts of town. Right, that would allow you to pick and choose where.
Okay, well, if you feel that makes sense to the,
I don't know if it makes sense, it'll make sense to the person answering the survey, but from a zoning perspective, it makes sense. If it's not gonna make sense to the people answering the survey, then we need to fix it.
With allowing commercial and everything, someone might think that would help bring more income to the town.
I think it'd be wise if people don't understand zoning, that they should probably just say stay with current zoning, instead of marking things that they don't understand.
Well, somebody might not be opposed to commercial if they knew it wasn't gonna be next to their house, right? I mean, it's somebody else's backyard, right? So, where having multiple zones allows you to do that.
Bill's got a question.
Bill?
Can we cover that in another question? Well, breaking out the commercial zoning?
Yeah, we do have commercial
Right.
in one of these.
26.
But if somebody's lived here their whole life, or they live someplace else but didn't pay attention, they don't necessarily know that you can decide that you want commercial or industrial without it having to be available throughout the whole town.
I think it's specific, like Route 109 on that question, I can't find a question right now, but,
Yeah, strip commercial development, any place along Route 109.
yeah.
I think Diane,
Okay.
Diane, you still have a question?
Well, I was going to offer a suggestion, because I can't remember now who said, but perhaps the people that are filling out the survey, I'm not sure if it's mentioned before this, might not realize that it's one zoning district essentially for the town. And so perhaps, I think I know what you're trying to get at with that, move toward traditional zoning district. So if there's a reference there to our current status, move from a single to multiple zoning districts. I don't know if that would help or make it
Oh, I
more
like
confusing.
that.
I do too.
Tim?
I think the number 24 needs to go above the number 24, needs to go in front of since the adoption of our zoning. Like, that paragraph there gives clarity to what you're asking in what you have marked as 24. You're setting up the question
I
of
got
that
you.
paragraph.
So the number should be there.
Well,
Because
but, I mean, I think that the intent was that bold text applies to
All of it.
24 through 29, and maybe in the next page even.
I understand that, but that paragraph supports the question you're asking directly.
Why don't, Mr. Chairman, why don't we, with the bold here, how can we create this so it appears to be a new section?
Right.
You know what I mean? So if somebody comes to this, right after 23, they're gonna, the
There's a
23.
line across the page,
Yeah.
just to break it. But I think, to the discussion that we've been having, that I think, perhaps what Diane is saying at the very end, where you have primary agricultural soils, say something to the effect that this is our current zoning plan. That we have one zone, and it's this.
Well, I liked her suggestion for, in that checkbox, let's say, right? Right now it says move towards traditional zoning districts. And I had suggestions to say move towards different regulations for different parts of town, which could again be a little muddy. But if we had moved from a single district zoning to multi-district zoning, that lets you know you have single zoning, district zoning right now, and move away from that to go to multi-district zoning.
Yeah, I think you might want to mention it in that paragraph above, because that way it prompts the reader as they go through the first few options to have that in their mind.
Something like currently Brookfield has essentially one zone.
Right.
Yep. I like
Which is defined as
Agriculture.
agriculture.
Residential.
Okay, so my suggestion, based on your feedback, would be the last sentence should say, currently Brookfield has one district zoning as agricultural. That work?
residential agricultural.
Residential agriculture.
It ignores the rec area, which is a second zone.
That's why I said essentially.
Is it RA1?
Yes. And Rec 1. And then we have, I don't remember the name of it, but some overlay district for the workforce housing.
So do we technically have a multi-zoning?
You know, we have, well, yes, because we have the rec zone and the RA, but with the overlay doesn't make it multi-district, but it has sort of similar effect.
So the suggestion, Tim, you said something about a page break? Is that what you said?
A line.
Yeah, just a line there.
Between 23 and the paragraph to
Yeah.
show another section?
If you get a line that goes all the way up to the margins.
Yeah. And we'll leave the paragraph without the number, and the question below will have the number on it. But
Or you could put the number before the new sentence you're gonna add. Right, have it be sort of the intro to the going forward question.
oh,
Yes, I like that.
yeah.
That's good.
You still have what's in bold, introducing the whole section. You've got a little introduction to this one question.
Okay. Want to move on?
Number 25 some towns have like the family so I don't know what they call it, like the family compounds. I'm not sure how they zone for that, but is that something that's ever come up here in town? Somebody wanted to do that? Just thinking, and we've got a laundry list, so it might, I don't know if this, one more that I thought that wasn't on there that.
Colin's guy wanted to do that one time.
I'm sorry?
Colin's guy wanted to do that one time.
My family's small, I don't need a compound.
That was discussed.
So should we add family compounds to the list?
But wouldn't that be
I don't know what that
subdivisions?
means.
Wouldn't that be subdivisions?
I think that the regulations allow you to have multiple homes on one lot, so you don't have to have the expense of subdividing. And potentially not have to have the road frontage.
Wouldn't that be a detached accessory dwelling unit?
I don't think, well, I don't know, like, the Marians have their family compound out on the lake, right? I mean, they've got 30 houses out there or something like that. I don't think you'd call those ADUs.
But aren't those all on separate lots?
I don't, quite frankly, I don't know, but, I think that somebody who wanted to build a family compound could subdivide and do that, but then basically we're saying you have to, somebody has to spend $50,000 just doing paperwork, which we may want, people, I don't know, and if nobody cares about it, I don't care about it, but we have a laundry list of things that that other towns do, right? So, just wondering if we should add that one to the laundry list.
25 and 26 should have one more item on the end, other, and that show. The others,
There you go.
for the outliers.
There you go. That'll solve that problem, because if somebody's burning to build a family compound, they can put it in.
I know what Rob's gonna look
Yeah,
like.
I trace some of these survey results back to certain individuals.
Thank you, Tim.
You're welcome.
I'll add that in.
We want other on, I guess we have it on 27.
27, 28.
Yeah.
And all the questions in this section other than 25 and 26, I have other as an option of responding, so probably.
I like it.
And you have other, please specify, and just plain other in 28.
Yeah, I saw that.
Well, 24 is just others.
I don't know if we really need please specify. I think that we can just put other.
I don't know why people get that should fill in the line.
They'll get that. Thank you, Steve.
business development would you prefer to see in Brookfield? The second one just says spread throughout town.
That's a pattern.
Is that clear enough?
The pattern we have in commercial districts throughout the entire town. I mean, I could put spread commercial business development throughout town.
Well, I mean, if it makes sense to you, you feel that everybody would understand that, then I guess it's me.
Would it be more clear if spread were allow? Or allowed?
What patterns of commercial business development? How else can you describe spreading it throughout the town?
In other words, you have one single zoning, and anybody can put a commercial building anywhere within the town.
I like the word allow
Yeah, I do too.
versus spread.
Yep.
What was that?
Well,
Allow.
you have that further down, though.
Allow
Allow commercial
commercial.
development to happen anywhere randomly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's cross spread throughout town out, and let's leave the allow commercial development to happen anywhere randomly. Is that clear?
Yes.
Sounds
All right,
good.
All right.
On number 34, the answer lines are indented.
And you're a stickler.
Can you imagine living in my brain?
No. It's horrible. It's a scary place.
Not to compound it, but you gotta make sure that question 34 has a blank back page. It's gonna, you're prompting them to write on the back of the sheet, so hopefully the back of the sheet's blank.
Well, it could be the back of the survey. Maybe I just put it on the back of the survey.
Yeah. Depends how literal you are.
Right. At some point, we're gonna mail this out to people. Not sure when.
Well, we've only been talking about it for a short time, so tonight, so that's good.
You know?
That's progress.
Get more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
I think it's really
And if we're-
long.
and if we're picking out indented lines, then I guess that's okay. And no colons, you know?
Yeah.
Number 32, it just says numbers of members in the
Yeah,
household.
it should be number of members. That was one that was requested at the last meeting.
I mean, I understand what you're asking. I'm just looking at just the verbiage, that's all. Numbers of members in the house. How many?
Read it as number of members. There's an extra S in there.
Maybe that's it.
Makes sense to you know?
Oh, made sense before. I'm just
Oh.
looking at everybody else.
Diane?
28, I think these are appropriate options, but I wonder if, I'm not sure, all right, so what popped into my head as possible additions here would be pavement concerns, condition of the roads.
Road quality.
Thank you. And then dirt versus paved. Because I understand that there was a special meeting this fall about roads, and I guess it was well attended, but I didn't attend. And so presumably that's, some concern. And instead of leaving a lot, for, it would shorten the list of others. In other words, you define a couple of more options for people to check. So I don't know what the right thing is, but it just seems to be, these are not, I don't think, the list of things that people were probably griping about at that meeting. What were those concerns mostly? Did anyone go to that meeting? Rick, you must have been there.
Yeah, I was there. We get a lot of concern, a lot of feedback about roads. People people seem to be concerned with roads.
So what aspect? I'm just wondering whether or not.
Condition, mostly condition.
Okay.
People want dirt roads paved, paved roads dirt, aprons, repairs. It's always something.
Okay.
So could we put a line to say current road conditions? There'd be another option if people are, and that would cover dirt roads, tarred roads. People want their tarred road to be dirt, then that would cover that.
I think that's a good idea.
Road condition.
Specific location or someplace to add something.
Yeah, road condition, we'll put specific location.
People love to talk about roads.
Are there concerns about speed?
Well, I was going to suggest traffic being one of the items, although it may not seem to be a lot of, but I think there's some roads in town that people would be concerned about, used as alternative through traffic on busy weekends or certain times of the day.
I mean, I know that there's been some concern about speed at an next door neighbor's place where there's a little jog in the road, and he's got little kids, but, so I'm not sure if speed is a general concern, or, I don't think we have, do we have streetlights here in town at all? Other places people are concerned about lighting of the streets, things like that, I don't know. Do we have
They don't like lights.
I hate lights.
No lights.
No lights.
So can we address that as another category?
I'm just wondering whether, you know.
Excessive speed on roads, or, that's,
Well, you're asking for general transportation concerns, and the prevailing transportation method is the automobile. So I think that would be a worthwhile addition.
It's not gonna hurt to add it.
No.
yeah, excessive speed.
Well,
I'm reaching out for.
Is it from
Okay,
her?
something that may be
Somebody
too
may
specific.
think, somebody may think that traffic's too slow here in town.
Right.
Somebody-
You know, for excessive speed, you should put excessively slow speed. You hand out tickets for a slow pit wash. Unless you're on a horse, you should go to a 35.
And it,
I only do 40 on 109. Sorry,
good.
don't get behind me.
But it is 40.
and getting back to Diane's original concern, you know, if we could find out from the survey that everyone wants the speed limits in town to be 45 to 50 miles an hour on every road, we need to plan for that.
Right, as far as the
If-
road
if-
design.
Yeah, and how wide they are, and
Yep.
everything, right?
Yep.
So, what the intersections look like, things like that, so, but,
I know it gets crazy out here on 109.
Just be aware that the town only owns a few roads.
I'm sorry?
There's state roads in this town
Right.
that we really don't do anything about. Has to be brought up with the state. But our regular inventory of roads, what do we got? Well, there are a few, but the main drags, Stoneham, Ghani, Lyford, Clark. The dirt part of Lyford, the blacktop part is state.
Yeah.
Moose, the little small roads around town, it's not many. Not many that would be candidates for speedways.
People, I can attest that some people drive really fast on Stoneham. I think, especially when it was first paved, right by my house, people would come out of like Four Corners and they'd be, I live, I don't know, quarter mile down the road, people would be, 55 by the time they got to my house.
Wait until spring. Wait until the road thaws out and nice and dry. We come right back the way.
Well, you can't, because all the chickens right there at the intersection, you can't go past there. They'll kill the chickens.
He's lost quite,
I know.
he's lost quite a few chickens
You
there.
can't go fast through there, I know.
I think
That's a tough part, that's like driving through someone's yard.
It is.
Yeah, that is a tough spot
Did you-
there.
he's got a couple little kids, which is really, really scary.
There's a bill in the legislature that is for prohibiting trespassing foul.
It's already against the law. I know, because the
apparently.
cops came and told me about it. My chickens were across the road.
Kidding me?
I am completely serious.
Seriously?
Yep. It's, chickens are, you have chickens, you should know. Chickens can be really destructive.
That's what they do.
As chickens are well behaved.
Have you seen how they live?
All right, let's get back to this. So we have excessive speed, we're gonna add under the general transportation concerns. Do you seriously, do we all agree we should have not fast enough, or what do we want to put?
I think we should have,
No,
I think we
no,
should have
no, no.
as unbiased a survey as we can.
Yes.
And I think it's, if somebody wants to get from here to there, they might want to be able to go
Could be the
faster.
same question, too fast, too slow, or something like that, I guess.
Or how about just speed concerns?
Speed conditions.
I like that.
Yeah,
It'll be easier to count it if we separate too fast from too slow.
Yeah, 'cause do we put speed bumps or do we pave roads? We need to determine which way the town's gonna go. So,
Yeah, like,
speed's not posted for Z80.
Just 35's good. 20's crazy.
Where's the 20?
Everybody in my neck of the woods does 20 miles an hour. It's a pretty view. I see it twice a day.
Suggestions for that category for speeds not being high enough?
I like
I think
generic
we can-
speed concerns.
Yeah, I just,
Yeah, if you put general speed concerns to somebody,
If you just put general speed concerns, you're saying put general speed concerns?
or traffic speed, or.
I think you want to separate it so you don't have somebody who wants it faster.
Well, you
You
could,
you won't be able to,
but
separate
you're
that out.
bound by some laws as far as governing how fast a road can be posted. So unless
You just write it in. Too
You
slow.
you could do speed concerns and then put too slow or too fast, and they could circle one.
Good.
or traffic moves too slowly and traffic moves too quickly.
I think either one will work. I think they'll get it.
Yep.
And do you want them to identify where on that?
Yeah, give it a blank. Yeah.
Front of my house.
Okay, I'll put specific location. See, now I think that that's where 29 would come in, is because if there are transportation concerns or traffic concerns in Brookfield, someone would put it in there. Like Bill would say they drive too slow down his road. Especially at 6:15 in the morning when he's trying to get to work.
It's a passing lane.
Do the snowdrifts on both ends again.
Shall we move on? We addressed 32, add number of members in the household. Yes, Diane?
Suggestion on 30, instead of just employment, if you added respondents' employment.
Employment of respondent. Respondent.
In 33, Mr. Chairman, why don't we have what one service is currently available? What one service not currently available would benefit the residents of Brookfield? Why just one?
Yeah, there could be more than one, right?
What services?
Pick your
What
top one,
services?
though. Which would be top one? I mean, you're kind of waiting that, which one would be, if you gave us all of them, we didn't know which one you really valued the most, really.
Maybe 20 pages long.
Yeah, you could have a laundry list of, there's not a Starbucks, there's not a Walmart.
So you want to prevent that listing.
Diane?
That question doesn't seem to fit here. It seems to fit better at the end of the section that I didn't think we should have at the beginning. It just struck me that, well, why is that here? We're talking about, we're getting data points.
Demographics.
Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
Yeah, 33 and 34 would be not related to demographic questions.
And additional comments as well.
Well, I like 34 because that kind of sums up, you know, it's the end of the survey, and I think that's a good spot for that. But the one service not currently available, I think, should be number 11 for the vision of the town.
Okay, I'm good with that.
Well,
Everybody else?
I don't know, I disagree. I think it probably should stay where it is, but maybe break off from the demographics and have this as a separate section. Maybe if we word it a little bit differently, it wouldn't sound so abrupt of a question. Because this is kind of like, we kind of set this up at the beginning where we were trying to get people in the flow of taking the survey, and to kind of throw a question where you have to stop and think and make some decisions kind of breaks up that process of getting them to the meat.
Yeah, this would end up in Bill's fire if he had to do that.
That's right. And you start so
why don't we put a preamble after 32 and 33 to kind of change the feel of it?
well, say thank you for making it this far in the survey. Just
You're right.
More questions.
You're a trooper, keep going.
We're proud of you.
You're almost done.
Doesn't it say on the first page here that this survey must be completed within 10 minutes or something?
Or less.
That's why I was saying before about having sections. I'm just brainstorming, it doesn't have to go that way. That's why I just looked at these sections, like a transportation section. So the questions within the sections would be related to the master plan sections.
Right.
So when the person's reading this and sees bold at the top of the section, now you're setting up in their mind, okay, now they're going to start asking me something about transportation, and then there's the transportation questions.
Right.
Up, they're going to talk about the regulations or the planning zoning ordinances. So, and all those questions will be in that section. You know what I mean? Just so it'll help us out and help set them up as the, not wrong word, set their mind up as they're going through it, so we know that preamble you're saying is the section title.
So did you watch the tape from December 21st meeting?
I wasn't here.
Right. We discussed that.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So the concern that we have with that is some of these questions fit in multiple areas of the master plan design. So the problem with trying to put them into sections is you might end up asking the same question twice, or it'll be redundant. So by asking the general broad question, it might answer a few different sections within the master plan. So I had tried doing that originally because that was from I believe it was a November meeting where we had discussed that. And I went through, I think it was 2 days after Thanksgiving, I went through and I sat there with a master plan with the categories, and then I went through the questionnaire and I'm like, well, this question really answers question 1, 11, and 15, sections on the master plan. So it was very hard to do that. So we made the determination at the last meeting to just keep it as it is, and then put those questions, the answers to those questions into categories.
Well, we're not going to build the master plan off the survey. This is pretty much a jump start to get people moving in this direction.
So let's go back to the original discussion between the demographics. Diane brought up a good point about 30 through 32. was really a demographic question of the survey, and then after that, those aren't really demographic questions. So I think we do need to have some sort of a preamble there to change the feel. You know, maybe even thank you for your time. Your opinion is extremely important to developing the future of Brookfield. Please give us further information as to what your desires for the town would be.
Yeah. These two questions are
Real
prompts.
simple. Yeah.
You know?
Sounds perfect, right that.
I'll watch the tape.
Awesome. So, yeah, go ahead, I mean,
I wrote a preamble on there. So
okay. On the first page, the third paragraph, you mentioned the website. I suggest you put the URL there.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And then on the last page, where you end with contact information, you have the 267 Wentworth Road is in a tiny font, tiny size. Probably needs to just make the font uniform.
Yeah.
You may want to put the URL there as well, maybe with pointing to the planning board section or something. I don't know. At least the town's website.
Good suggestion.
I'm not sure whether it would make sense to point out that they can get the current master plan and the current zoning ordinance on the website.
Where do you think we could put something there? Maybe even the first sentence. Master plan is guiding document for land use decisions. Planning in Brookfield. Brookfield is required to create and maintain a master plan per RSA 674.2. Maybe something that says if you'd like to review our current zoning and master plan, it's located here, and put a link in there.
It should read a copy of it will be in the office and on the website. Some people don't have
Right.
Yeah.
internet at all.
Okay. Good suggestion.
In reference to the aging population, is there anything in the survey that would be pointed to that demographic?
For the age,
Yeah, like something that,
31 age respondent.
You mean old people concerns?
yes, that's what I meant.
Elderly concerns.
Did I say senior, didn't I? What did you say?
Old people? People with a lot of gray hair, like me.
I'm not sure I understand your concern, Ed.
Oh, so just is there a survey question that would be directed to seniors in town? I mean, there's, I believe they share the Wakefield or the Union, senior center. They may or may not, I don't know, I don't believe we have one, so. Just a thought.
So you're thinking a question like, should we have, can you suggest services, are there services for seniors that we should have, like a senior center?
There may be one, there might be already an existing question here that could be added to, that's what I'm trying to figure out.
I don't think this should be directed at any one particular demographic.
Everybody answers the same question.
Yeah, I think that this should be very, very general.
Young people may think that a senior center would be a good thing for their older friends or something, I don't know. I mean,
Some young
I'm
people.
just-
Right, but
not-
you start opening it up, and then, should we have a playground, should we do this, should we do that?
I was actually gonna ask the question whether we should have anything related to, young kid things as well, right? I mean, should we have a playground?
It might come up when we're working on the master plan.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, that might be additional comments. People might say, there's not enough services for seniors, or there's no playground for my kids to play, or,
I just sent my kids into the woods.
that's what I do. Like, here, put this brown coat on and put horns on you, and go play.
Good.
Good, any more comments? Diane?
I have a question. Had there been any discussion about this being done electronically?
Yes, we were trying to figure out the best way to get a copy of these into each home, and multiple copies, so that each family member could complete one. So we talked about putting a link on the planning board site where people can go to the link, they can print a copy. And then we had Rob that also said, well, some people just want to scan it and send it back to us. You have other people that like snail mail. You have people that want to drop it off. So that's been in discussions to try to figure out the best way to get a copy to everybody, and to be able to get the copies back. So I think that the general consensus was we're going to do electronic. We'll be able to receive them electronically as well, via the planning board email. So if you wanted to fill yours out and scan it, you could send it to the planning board. Or snail mail or drop it off in the office.
Okay, so you don't say that, though. You give the email, but you don't say that you can send it electronically on this last page. You say, please drop it off or mail it to.
Thank you, Diane.
That's why I asked the question.
Yep.
Was Diane speaking to the, like an electronic PDF form that you could fill out electronically? Is that what you meant?
Well, I specifically didn't put it that way, but I was a generic electronic sort of media. I think that's a lot more trouble than it's worth, but for this effort, I think that the solution that you guys already discussed is great.
Yeah, I would say if we had more population in town, it would probably behoove us to do a PDF or do SurveyMonkey or something online that we could just say, click this link and fill the survey out. But realistically, how many surveys do we? I mean, we know what the results of the last one was, right, George? What we got back for surveys.
Absolutely.
So I think that we can manage paper copies at this point. So I'll add that notation in here to that scanning and emailing is also appropriate way to get it back to us. Thank you, Diane. Any other comments on the master plan community survey?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Is it possible to have some type of revision or date or something on here? So is this going to be something we vote on to send, correct?
Yes.
And if we do that, we should be able to have that revision, that final revision that we're agreeing to. So when we vote on it, we know what we're voting on.
Yeah, the file names that I've been sending have revisions in them.
Okay.
So what I could do is, this was revision 2, based on my notes. So what I'll do is I will put on the footer, maybe I'll just put something that says Rev 3 and then a date. And that way when we all vote on it, we can,
After we vote on it, will they go to Rev 1? If that's what you're gonna submit to the, for public.
I don't think
I
you
mean,
want to
it's
do that.
just a
because-
working document up until that point.
Right, we'll have copies of Rev 1 already, so typically you don't back revise something.
Right.
I think we
You're
just.
making me die a little bit
I
inside.
know.
Mustafa guy, I mean.
I know that.
Everything's revision, and you never go back.
Oh, yeah, he has a machining background too, you should know better than that.
No, well,
No.
well, there's stuff you play around with until you figure out what you're gonna use to actually do something.
He cuts wood,
Yes.
Final,
it's not real machines.
Final?
It's always final.
Yeah.
or as sometimes I have a final.
Final, yeah, I have final three.
Final three.
So, yeah, we can do that. I'm fine with putting final on whatever we can do that on the electronic file too, so I don't think it's a big deal.
Final one.
For the actual printing,
Yeah.
production.
Yeah.
And then before we vote on it, we gotta make sure that we have this in, that we all have the revision we're gonna vote on in hand a certain number of days before the meeting too, so just make sure that happens.
I don't think that's a regulation that we've got. That's for rules of procedure changes.
Only for rules of procedure changes?
Yeah, it's just sort of a working document.
You change the rules of procedure to make it apply to everything, but.
Another time.
Cool. All right, we'll move on from this. I'll make the changes and send everybody a copy. Hopefully sooner than the last one. I apologize that I waited until Monday, Tuesday. It was Tuesday night. All right, let's see.
Can I briefly raise a question? So when I read a document like this, or when I'm working at writing a document like this, I try to think about what people are going to ask, what they might ask. Because it's going to prompt some people to think about stuff they haven't necessarily thought about before. There's one thing that I really have no idea how to answer it. So we raised the prospect of potentially having a commercial zone, for example. How the hell would that work? We're going to take somebody's part of their street and say, you're no longer residential, you're commercial now? How the hell does that, I mean, just logistically, how does that work?
It happens up in Ossipee.
Yeah.
They have a village district and a commercial district right next door. Like an example would be Hobbs Tavern was here. He wanted to use this property for an event, but the event property is a village district or a non-commercial district or residential, so he was unable to do anything. So that line is right there.
I understand, but right now, everything is residential agricultural, and everything, not completely, but all parts of town have people living there.
Towns do it. They bulldoze houses all the time. And they put commercial buildings in.
House across the street from Walmart in Rochester, it's no longer there. Used to be houses all through there.
Oh, yeah.
But aren't we basically already commercial because we allow home-based businesses?
It's home-based business.
Yeah, you get to live there.
You have to live there.
It's a residential business.
So you wouldn't call it commercial?
It's a commercial endeavor, but it's not what people think of when you
Yeah.
say a commercial zone. Walmarts show up in commercial zones. You know, you've got industrial zones where you've got, you know, a refinery or an ethanol plant or something like that, right? I mean, you know.
Towns do it. They change zoning, so it's done.
I just have a hard time seeing how that would happen here.
Well, there's still lots, there's quite a bit of vacant property.
Yeah, but it's scattered.
Unused property.
Yeah, but it's scattered.
Right now, yeah, that's true, but who's to say that you just don't have, it doesn't have to be a contiguous zone, does it? Can't you, like, cherry pick? I'm not advocating for it,
Yeah,
don't get
yeah.
me wrong, but.
You would change the zoning if someone applies to put in an industrial park or something, they have a tract of land. You change the zoning for them to allow it, change it from agricultural to commercial or like industrial, or whatever they want to do.
Yeah, hopefully we have the rules in place
Right,
first.
well, and then, well, that zone's gonna be butting up against people that aren't gonna be happy having it next to them, you know?
But doesn't all that get voted on by the people?
Let's say I'd like to be at that public hearing.
Yes.
I'll be there.
But, I mean, when it's easy to, there's was a protest petition? So you can, I think it's like something like 20% of the abutting property signs a petition, then instead of a majority vote, it becomes it has to be like a 2/3 vote to pass, things like that, so it can become difficult.
Well, let's say it would be easier if anyone would even bring that up.
So you're suggesting that we might end up with a commercial zone through somebody doing a petition warrant article for a particular project, basically based on a particular project that they were trying to do.
I imagine if it were to happen, that's the way it would go down.
It wouldn't be the planning board suggesting this end of 109 is
I don't think
going
so.
to be all strip malls.
Well, how did the workforce housing overlay get done?
The legislature said that we had to do it. That's the only reason we did that.
And the planning board did that?
Yes. I think we should repeal that if we can. It's a bad idea.
So, Mr. Chairman, what are the next steps here? You're gonna type all this up, put all the corrections in and new ideas, and then what, next meeting, we're going to adopt it or accept it and then send it out immediately?
Yeah, I think the next meeting we can vote on it and then make the final draft. And we make copies of it and electronic copies accessible.
Should we get it out next meeting then? Maybe some chatter on it at the town meeting?
Right. Even leave blank copies at the town meeting. People can grab one, fill it out there, and put it in if they wanted to.
And give them a do-over, counting votes.
Right.
And if I may, cost. I think I might have asked this question before, I'll just ask it again, is how much does it cost to send these out?
Well, George made copies, and how many pages do we have here? We could do double-sided. So there's a total of 5 pages.
I mean, are we gonna meet and stuff envelopes as a group and then send it out, or is George gonna do it, or who's gonna stuff the envelopes? Who's gonna print up the labels? Do we have a way of doing that? That's my questions.
It's a good question. How do we do it last time, you know?
No, that was before my time.
How are the tax bills handled?
Tax bills get stuffed by Dick Peckham. Puts them in the envelopes.
But we have a way of having.
And the address is on,
labels.
I don't remember how, is the address, is it a window? The address is on the thing, or is it?
I think it is a window.
So we can't, we don't have that luxury.
Right.
I mean, can we print labels here? Do we have a list? What do we use as a list?
It should be the tax bill. We can use that as a list, because it'll be going out to every taxpayer.
I wonder if that's easily converted into a, 'cause she doesn't print the labels.
Right there on the,
Yeah. I suspect that somebody will be able to pull that off.
George, is that something that you could look into by any chance? If you
Yeah.
had a list with names and address of where the tax bills go, and if we could somehow get them into a legal form?
Yes, I'll contact Dianne.
Does anyone know if like Staples or somebody like that can do this for us? Or we give them CSV with the addresses and a PDF and say, make it happen?
I know some of them do, I don't know if all of them do.
Actually stuffing the envelopes, you mean? And-
Well, I don't know
about
about this
stuffing,
could
but
be
they can do
folded,
the
in, the
labels.
label could be stuck, folded,
Oh, that's
stapled.
right, they're not,
I
they're
don't know.
not addressed individually, they're
Right.
all the same thing, yeah?
I mean, maybe somebody doesn't want to return a survey that has their mailing label stuck on the side of it, maybe it doesn't need to be an envelope, but, I don't know. But if somebody's gonna email it back, email a scan back, you're gonna know who it came from, but, I don't know. I'm just wondering whether there's not a service we can just use, and, you know, instead of spending $100 of George's time, we spend $100 of Staples' time, dollars or something, I don't know.
How many are going out? And how many tax bills, do you know off the top of your head, Rick?
Over 400, less than 500.
I don't know, I don't count them.
That
It's
sounds
not
about
like a
right.
mail it unlimited or anything like that up here. I used to work next door.
George, would it be feasible to call Staples and see, or?
I don't know if that's the right place to call. I've never done a mailing, so I don't know if there's other places. Just throwing the idea out there that, you know,
In Kennybrook, a place called Mail It Unlimited, and they would do this. And they'd actually stuff the envelopes for you if you wanted to.
Anything can be done for a fee.
Yep,
Or we could just do a coffee one Saturday and all meet here and do it.
yep. Or they just do the labels for you, or print the addresses directly onto the envelopes.
What's the name of that company?
Mail It Unlimited.
And they're in Maine?
They were in, yeah, Kennybrook.
I'll just be looking into that as well. It's a good question, Ed.
When we did when the town did the Churchill Schoolhouse, we sent a survey out to everybody, and we got a pretty good amount back. We must have got the labels, or got the addresses and labels for that, so.
I'll see if anybody knows how to do that. They might be able to do it. Doesn't sound like anything to get wrapped around the axle of, it's just mailing.
No, like I said, even if we just all meet here on a Saturday and coffee and donuts and stuck labels on things and.
It's not something to
I'd
get,
come for the coffee and donuts.
it's not something to get wrapped around the axle.
Not that far to go.
Yeah.
Get caught underneath the car and get.
Diane?
It's quite late in the game for me to bring this up, but I noticed flipping through here that there's several pages, particularly the second and third page, that have an awful lot of white space on them. And I was wondering if there was any way for us to save a page. Or is it too much? It's probably more trouble than it's worth.
I can try to, because I think the spacing might, because we're adding stuff as well in the next version.
Okay.
So,
If you do columns.
yeah, I think the next, if I got rid of some of the white spacing, it might take this last page off. I think there are a couple lines that were still on the last page. I'll work on that, see if we can try to reduce the number of pages. I thought about making the font smaller, but then we have people in town that, you know, we don't want them.
Thank you for using a sans serif font, by the way.
I was gonna use New Times Roman, because I know how much you like that one. She despises that font. I try to send her all my emails in New Times Roman, but.
Immediately.
I know she won't read them if I do that, so.
It's a newspaper.
Yeah.
I don't read the newspaper anymore.
Okay, so I will make those changes and send out copies. I think we did some really good work on this and appreciate everybody's input. So we'll move on. Any public comments?
Mr. Chairman, I just
George?
want to remind the board about the books, the New Hampshire books that we use for the planning I don't know if Ed has any comments to add about that.
That was the action item that I was supposed to do.
That was your remember.
That's
Remember
what I
on the
remembered
way.
on the way here.
That you were supposed to bring?
That I was supposed to find out where else to get them. I know Ossipee goes, Ossipee said they get them through the Lakes Region Planning Commission. So I would assume, I need to find out, because I think my action item was to go right to the new Office of Strategic Planning, which is OEP now, or which is OEP, Office of Strategic Planning. Initiatives,
Or is that?
yes. And find out if we can just order them through there. I don't, you know.
Can you do that by next meeting?
Sure.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, George. Appreciate it. Member comments? Rick?
The services we purchased from Wakefield, the cost went up a little bit. Went from 280,000 to 355.
I thought it was 318.
355. That's like about a 26% increase.
Any
The-
reasoning behind that?
The 318, there was, that spreadsheet must have a formula glitch in it, and some columns didn't add up. They're putting on 3 full-time fire rescue to cover 24 hours. That's a significant increase. Also, they're charging us for New Hampshire Municipal Retirement Fund that they contribute to. 33% of employees pay is the contribution. We've never been billed for that before. Apparently what was going on is when this agreement started, there was a spreadsheet built, and whoever did this just would plug in the same numbers year after year after year. And once this was looked at this year, it came up that the retirement fund wasn't captured, like the insurance. And that's a big nut. That's about a 30,000 increase right there. So general increase, things going up. More contribution to the capital reserve. 3 full-time employees. We're taking a significant hit this year.
Did you meet with Kelly?
Yeah.
Did she explain why they're now hitting us for the 10% on the capital reserve that they've never hit us up for before?
We discussed that. I asked for relief on that, in addition to 10% contribution that we, administrative fee that we pay on the retirement and the medical. That's just a deposit in the bank. That doesn't occur, in my opinion, that doesn't occur administration fees, et cetera, that they have on the bottom of the list. There's no work involved in that. It's a deposit. Perhaps we'll get relief on that. If we get relief on the money transactions like that, it can save us about $10,000 admin fees.
What other services changed between last year and this year? So that was fire.
No
and
services
police.
changed. They all went up.
Right, but what other services went up? So we receive fire, police,
Police, fire, ambulance.
ambulance,
Done.
and transfer station.
And we contribute to their capital reserve. The transfer station went down a little bit. That was a result of long-term employees retiring, being replaced by new employees. So we saw some a small relief there. Nothing near relief to offset the $75,000 increase.
Did they correct the glaring errors in the spreadsheet that were clearly,
On the ambulance section, that was the glaring error. The columns didn't add up.
right, right,
That's why it went from 318 to 355. And those columns finally, what happened was, the old column, the old total from the old sheet, just transposed over,
Right.
didn't add the new amounts.
okay.
So that was the cause of the increase from 318 to 355. And when you look at the sheet in the ambulance section, that's where the 3 new employees are bookkeep. That's why there's a significant increase in the ambulance section.
So there's 3 additional people, or just they
Three
kicked it up to
additional
3
full-time-
people?
3 additional full-time people on the fire rescue crew. 3 new hires, full-time.
Okay.
You said we're also paying into the CIP.
The,
Only, I hope, only for
yes,
the things that we're paying for.
Ambulances, fire, police cruisers, fire trucks, those things. They've hit us up in the past for
Building
capital
improvements.
improvements at the transfer station.
What about the public safety building? We have to
yeah.
add
They-
into that too.
Yeah,
Well, they're
we
not-
paid for that. They redid the whole second floor to.
No, we didn't pay for that. That didn't come through last year, unless they put it on this year and I missed
Okay,
it.
that's on, there's a public service, or there's a building thing on there this
The
year.
public safety, there is a public safety line item, but that's for the cost of actually operating the building.
10 grand. That's
I-
our contribution.
I can't remember, I didn't look at it
Okay.
that closely, because it was, everything was screwed up, so I didn't.
So we
spend a lot of
didn't
time.
get charged for the,
We didn't get charged for that, the second floor. They took that out of their reserve, I think, as I understand. But, yeah, what is it?
Okay, so to recap, in the past, we weren't charged this stuff, but we normally should have been, and they tried to make that case.
Oh, no, they've just kicked up, well, the only thing that's new is the retirement,
yes.
paying into retirement. And I don't know why it's only listed under the ambulance portion, because there's a whole bunch of employees.
The ambulance and the fire are the same group.
Okay.
Fire rescue.
That's,
I think it's
right.
fire rescue.
That's
Okay.
what it's there.
Okay. So presumably we've been paying it all along, but it's been for the police, and it's just been buried under the kind of other.
Well, was it on the police before they retired?
Well, I don't know,
No, it
that's,
wasn't.
it-
This came out, this got dug up. Why isn't Brookfield contributing to this? It's a real cost. And apparently, obviously, they put it in. It wasn't in before. Maybe there was no retirement when the spreadsheet was built in.
20 years ago.
Yeah. So, and what's been going all along, as it was explained to me, is people that were doing the spreadsheet were just plugging the numbers in. There's the spreadsheet, plugging the numbers, and they weren't capturing everything.
And this was all discovered after the budget meetings.
This year,
Brookfield.
this is the first year.
Right, but I'm saying that the the notification from Wakefield didn't come until after the selectmen had already met on budgets, right?
The letter was dated January 10th. Or 15th. No, 10th, excuse me.
It came to us with an increase of 318. There was an error. Now it's 355. That's new information this week.
Awesome.
So what are you gonna do about it?
Mr. Chairman, are we?
Just raise our taxes?
No. No, we're still.
What do you suggest?
I think we should have a services review committee.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, we already did that. Did you read the report? You were on the committee.
Yeah.
There were a lot of suggestions in there.
But, what do you suggest for, relief? I'll go with all this stuff.
I'm asking, what are you guys doing about it? Selectmen manage that. What are you doing about it?
We'll have to discuss it.
Okay?
Okay, any other member comments? Rob?
I don't know when it is, but sometime soon, there's gonna be, people are gonna have to file to run for offices. And
Starting the 24th,
excuse me?
starting the 24th.
Okay, thank you.
What
So,
was that window?
Until the first Tuesday of February.
so I think I'm up for a reelection. I am not running. So there will certainly be at least one planning board seat with no incumbent running. So I believe Geary Ciccarone is also, his seat is up. And we haven't seen him for a long time, so I'm not sure that he would be running. So strongly encourage somebody or somebodies to run for planning board.
What are you gonna do, leave and drink beer?
He's not gonna drink it.
That's not making it.
Making it.
I will drink some too.
Would you stay on as a
I got my
consult?
phone.
What's that?
I'm up too, right? I just filled the chair.
Yes, there
Yes.
were 3 on the ballot this
Yeah.
year.
Are you saying that we should put out more advertisement? I think we have something on the website.
There is.
I don't know. I'm just pointing it out so that, I mean, in the past, people have forgotten to, that wanted to run, have forgotten to sign up and things like that. So just throwing it out there. That's my comment.
I think so.
I'm not sure what more out there. Any suggestions? We'll run with it. A banner out front, maybe.
It's in the Granite State News, all the vacancies in the town. The planning board is listed there.
Okay, good.
Is that already gone?
Yeah, it was in last week's and it was in this week's.
To tell people when they had to
Yes,
sign up.
the dates are in there.
Awesome.
Yep.
George, do you have something?
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just also want to, I don't know if it was pointed out, but Dianne Smith's term also ends this year as an alternate.
All right, thank you, Rob. Any other member comments? Meeting adjourned.